Hey, Carrie. I'm back. Not with a story, but another question being answered. It's like twofold. Like, how do you know if you're forgiven, and what exactly is forgiveness? And so, um, I'll start with how do you know you're forgiven? You'll know when you're forgiven when you can not have a resentful feeling about your decision making on releasing whomever has trespassed you, or having a bitter feeling. Bitterness is basically the older sister of resentment, because bitterness says I hate that I had to go through that. Resentment is I resent this. I hate the situation. They're very closely connected. Unforgiveness, on the other hand, is just simply I don't forgive you. I don't release you. You are a prisoner in my heart, in my mind, in my spirit. So when you don't have bitter feelings or resentful feelings, you have forgiven. If you have simply decided, I will not forgive, I will never forgive you, that is unforgiveness at its rawest. And unforgiveness is the older sister, the oldest sister to bitterness and resentment. That poisonous triad rolled together, very strong, and they need to be forced out of the mindset of humankind, not just women, but men as well. Forgiveness is not what we make it out to be. A lot of times we make forgiveness out to be that it's just like this overwhelming spiritual event, and I've cried it out, and I've went to the altar, and I boo-hooed back. And a lot of times we go home still hating the fact that we've gone through, hating the person that has put us through, refusing to let the person go that has put us through. I'll never forget that person. I'll never forgive that person. No. Forgiveness is a clear, concise decision. It starts with our decision making. So, can you forgive? Forgiveness is the ability to free somebody out of the prison of your mind and heart without the need of retaliation, justification, or validation or vindication. When you've forgiven a person, you've dropped their fault, you've given it over to God. Forgiveness is a divine exchange. It's more than just a release. It's an exchange. When we're holding on to unforgiveness and bitterness and resentment, our hands are shut tight, and it keeps us from receiving blessings from God. It keeps us from going on to our next inside of God. It keeps us from going on into our next inside of our own everyday life. It is a divine exchange. Jesus Christ is strong enough to take everything that we have to offer here on planet Earth inside of our emotional realm. He has the ability, because he had already forgiven mankind. I mean, on the cross, he has this guy next to him like, yeah, so, haha, you said you were the Christ, haha, but you got the other guy on the other side like, this has piqued my interest. Can I be with you in paradise when we go? And Jesus interceded for them and said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And he looked at the guy and said, I'll see you in paradise. Look, Jesus Christ is strong enough to take our bitterness, our resentment, our unforgiveness, and it puts something better inside of our heart, inside of our mind, inside of our hands, things we can work with, blessings that will overtake and overwhelm us when we give that divine exchange. But that divine exchange starts within our mindset. Our mind has to be like, I have decided to release this prisoner. Now, we go back to the residue, if what I talked about on another video, have I forgiven? Things like molestation, rape, terrible things that happen, betrayal, those things sometimes carry a residue. Is 3 women in my past that I'm just like, that have crossed the line inside of my marriage. I could easily be like, I don't forgive them and I don't forgive him. Matter of fact, deuces, I don't have to take this. I know who I am. I am a child of the King, and I am moving on. But moving forward does not mean that I've forgiven the women or the husband. It just simply means that the trespassing is still there, and now I'm bitter, hanging on to it for the rest of my life. I do not, and I never want to be a prisoner of my mind, my heart, and my emotions. I'd rather deal with the residue from the choice of forgiving and going back and talking through the residue and praying through the residue and making, decision making toward forgiveness than making a decision effort towards unforgiveness and sitting on it and becoming bitter. Bitterness makes us angry. It causes another personality type to rise up that has never been deemed to be who we are on the inside. It's like it causes us to be a whole nother person. We step out and do things we would never consider doing. We cheat back. We steal from folk. We could get, our spouse could say, well, I've committed adultery on you, and now you're divorced, but you don't care about the next woman's marriage. And so because bitterness has set in, well, what is it to me that you married? And we perpetuate cycles because of unforgiveness. And I come to tell you all on today, learn to let it go. Learn to put it in the hands of Jesus Christ. Learn to do the divine exchange. And let's drop our need to be right, our need for vindication, our need for validation, our need for justification, and put it in the hands of Jesus. He is more than able. Look, he said, avenge not the evildoers. He already told us, look, I got this. All we have to do is trust what he said. And a lot of times, the people that has put their mouth on us, betrayed us, talked badly about us, hurt us to our core, trespassed us, committed all levels of wrongdoing against us, you don't know what the justification is that God has. We try to commit justification out of our own will. And a lot of times our justification gets us in legal trouble. People get killed over betrayal. People, start doing drugs and alcohol to self-medicate over trauma and trouble and betrayal. We can no longer step in that cycle and cause our person, destroy ourselves to get other people back. That's not what God has designed for us. He has designed for us to have life more abundantly. But if we self-medicate, we're only hurting ourselves, and that's not abundant life. That's not abundant living. And so I wanted to make sure that I answered that question, that forgiveness begins with a choice. You have to say, look, I choose to let you go. I choose to forgive you. I choose this day, today, even today, I choose to let the unforgiveness go. I choose to let the bitterness and the anger and the hurt and the woundedness go. And I choose to let God walk out my steps. He has promised me that he knows the plans that he has for me. And so I'm going to trust him with the plans he has created for me. And I'm going to walk therein versus trying to create my own path. Let's choose to walk out forgiveness. Let's make the decision today to drop people's wrongdoing, whatever it is. Wrongdoing is wrongdoing. We trespass every single day with the thoughts and the actions that we do. And then we'll be like, well, I'm a Christian. And we expect forgiveness. We don't want the judgment. We want to live in the mercy of God. And the word tells us to the merciful is given mercy. So if you're not merciful, do not expect the mercy. We have to learn inside of our personhood forgiveness and mercy, giving a person mercy that has hurt us to the core and caused us to want to step out of our normal everyday personal environment and turn it to another individual. And so in closing, I just want to say, forgive, let it go. Life will be so much easier if you just say, you know what? I'm not strong enough for this, but I know the Lord Jesus is. I know that he can take my hurts, my pains. He's well able. He's my personal Superman. I can put it in his hands and he'll know exactly what to do with it. He'll know exactly how to vindicate me. He'll know how to love the other person back to life or do whatever he decides to do. But for my sake, for me, I want the next level of mercy that God has to offer. And so I'm going to release whomever it is. It could be your husband. It could be your wife. It could be your child. It could be your next door neighbor. It could be students at school. It could be the place where you go worship. Let it go. Let it go. Drop it. It's not worth it in the end. What's worth it in the end is to receive mercy. What's worth it in the end is to live a life more abundantly. I love you. and have a great day. Choose to forgive. Bye.